Okay, so I will be upfront and transparent about this. This presentation was put together probably in about 15 minutes using AI. So I don't say that to, it's both a confession as well as, again, showing how far forward AI has developed nowadays. So I was able to give this, in this instance, it was Notebook LM. I was able to give it the information I put together and what I would like to see. It came up with a draft of the presentation. I then went back and made notes on each individual slide, and it revised them. And this was pretty much done within 15, 20 minutes. So again, that might be useful to consider if you are thinking of doing some sort of online training or full course, that tools like Notebook LM are going to be really useful here. Let's have a look here. As I mentioned before, this is the 2026 workshop structure. So each month over 10 months will be one topic per month. Invitation is to take this information and to create in between the Zooms. You have a month between each Zoom, so it's a real opportunity for you to sit down and work through it once, twice, thrice, whatever you feel is going to be appropriate, or explore different avenues as well. Of course, you're welcome to go ahead with the pre-existing video content if you want, or you can pace yourself over the course of the year. There'll be hands out after each sessions, and of course, there'll be replays. But really, what we're focusing on this week is about your script development and who are you speaking to. So the first slide here, I've got the two pathways for recording. And what I mean by that is that if you are a niche specialist, then you probably have a fairly good idea already of who your client is and what their presenting issues are and what they come to see you about. There is a second path, which is the value add. And maybe I'll talk about that first. Because when I talk about the value add, what I mean is that if you haven't got a pre-established niche that you want to work with, but you want to be able to be creative over the next month in preparation for the rest of the course, then the value add option is the path that I would recommend. Some of you may have heard me talk before about the value in creating a hypnotic audio recording that primes your listener to become better at hypnotic phenomena. And this is something that I recorded myself. Whenever anyone books a session with me and they get a confirmation email, within that email will be a downloadable audio that they can listen to, which will have them experience a hypnotic session, as well as developing an anchor that they can use to help going into their own hypnotic phenomena. And of course, the benefit of that is that it helps them to be able to experience hypnotic phenomena to the sound of my voice, so that when they come in to do the session, they're already kind of primed listening to the sound of my voice and going into the hypnotic phenomena. There is one that I would recommend you listen to for a great example, and that is from my dear friend, Paul Michel. Which screen did I put that on, Lawrence? Good question. I think it's this one here. It is. So Paul Michel has his YouTube channel, so it's well worth tracking that down. And the audio in question is this one here, the free self-hypnosis audio. He's had over 9,000 people listen to that over the past 5 years. And it's a fantastic example of what you could create to be able to send out to your clients when they book in for a session with you. And of course, there's other things outside of that. It isn't just about priming the client before they come in. It's also about thinking of the common tools and techniques that you might use during your session. So for instance, if you utilize mindfulness a lot, or something like urge surfing, or perhaps you want to do audio recordings that help people to help release anxiety or stress. So some of those common things that we know we're going to have coming up time and time again, you can build a resource library that you'll be able to send out to your clients after each session based upon some of the things that they may have said in session. The other benefit also I find of having a pre-recorded audio that you send out to clients before they come in to see you is that when they do come in to see you and sit down in front of you, one of the first questions you can ask is, did you have a listen to that hypnosis audio recording? And their response is going to be really useful feedback for you. So hopefully their answer is, yes, I did, and it was a really wonderful experience. And in that case, great, I just need to replicate what I did in that hypnosis recording with them now live in session. Or they might say, yes, I did, but it didn't really work for me. In which case, that might mean that you might need to go back and explore the pre-talk with them. There might be an opportunity there to explore what was happening for them. There might be something about the recording they didn't like, maybe some of the language used, maybe they struggled with, being able to imagine something if you were asking them to visualize. So there are all these bits of information you might be able to get back from them that will help to smooth out the session moving forward. Or they might say something like, I didn't listen to it at all, I'm too busy. And even that is great feedback, because really what that's going to suggest to you is that this is a time-poor person, or again, that there might be a fear around listening to it. So again, it's a useful opportunity to explore with them what it was that was preventing them from listening to it and being able to work through that as well. So we're looking more at that niche specialist then. So how I like to refer to it is, imagine that your niche client has a dating profile. This is the kind of information we want to know. Are they male or female? What kind of age should they generally be? What kind of job might they have? What kind of psychographics do they have? Are they someone who's going to be highly skeptical? They have kind of black and white thinking. What kind of fears do they have there? And what kind of current state are they in as well? By being able to get a good profile of down into that fine detail of who your client is, it really helps us to build a better understanding of what their pain points are and what kind of things we need to take them from pain to pleasure. So I refer to the pain to pleasure principle here as well. Some of the things we would ask is, for the pain point, how is the problem the problem? And for some of them, it might be things like, a feeling out of control, feeling that they might be rejected, feelings of shame. And we want to be able to take them to the pleasure side of it. What would life be without the problem? What's their desired identity? How do they see their future self? What kind of resources do they want to be able to have there as well? And that's really what a lot of these scripts should be doing, is it should be about relieving pain and being able to rehearse that pleasure. There's obviously a limit to what we can do with hypnosis audio recordings that is different to what you would do within a hypnosis session. Obviously, within a hypnosis session, it's going to be far more tailored to that client. The client is the script after all, so we're going to be working with them in real time, being able to see what those unconscious cues are and responding to that. We don't have the luxury of that when we're doing hypnosis audio recordings. So in many cases, we need to make sure that we keep it fairly straightforward, in the sense that it might be about techniques and strategies that help to relieve or let go of or release whatever it is that is the pain, and see them stepping into that future self, that future rehearsal, taking on that new identity in the pleasure side of things. So I've got here AI as a creative assistant. Now, I will say something here straight up, being that, yes, I'm talking a lot about AI tonight. That does not mean you have to use AI to write scripts. Some people are going to be naturally good at sitting down in front of a microphone and just ad-libbing something on the spot. Or alternatively, you might want to start by sitting down and ad-libbing on the spot, and then seeing the transcription of that and workshopping it a little bit more. Like, there's lots of roads here in terms of what you can use and what you might want to use and what you don't have to use. So while I am talking a lot about AI tonight, because, it's the hot thing, it doesn't mean that you have to use AI. If you're naturally just good at sitting down and free-flowing in your own wonderful hypnotic state, by all means, go ahead and do that. After all, people are going to be engaging with your recordings because it is you, and the more genuine and authentic you can make it, the more you're going to be able to capture that experience of you as well. However, if you are looking at how you might be able to use AI, and not necessarily even just to write a script, but for other ideas, this gives a good round view of that. So it could be about idea generation. You might be able to go to AI and say something along the lines of, well, my target client is male, 25 to 40. They experience challenges with addiction to adult entertainment, which is the area that I tend to work in a lot. They tend to come in feeling that they have no sense of control. They're frequently in relationships, sometimes just out of them, and that sometimes this is playing a problem within their relationship. They often live with shame and guilt. They don't know sometimes necessarily how to express themselves. Frequently, it's triggered by boredom, stress, anxiety, loneliness, fear of rejection. So we kind of know from that demographic what we can hand it in and say, if this is the dating profile of this person, what kind of ideas could you offer me that might be worth exploring further? And sometimes you might get some really interesting feedback on that. We've got there about language mining as well, finding the right metaphors and words. Sometimes if someone comes in, I'm a big fan of Ericksonian approaches, which means utilization of their existing internal resources. So for instance, I had a client the other day who came in for gambling. He had been at one point there a semi-professional soccer player and was a leader in that space. And so I was able to use metaphors there with him to help highlight particular strengths that he had. And sometimes if I don't have the right metaphors, then AI might be really useful to say, well, I've got this client, this is the problem, this is what their passions and interests are. What kind of metaphors can you offer me? It can be useful for drafting. And I would say as a golden rule, never take something that AI has generated and read it verbatim. I feel that is always going to be a challenging one because it's not really your tone of voice. You can obviously train AI to read your tone of voice, and we'll touch on it after. But I always believe that it's if you're going to use AI to generate scripts, use it as a draft, use it as a starting point, and then go through it and make sure that you're making it your own. And of course, we're talking before about sometimes you might want to sit down and do recording and then take the transcription and edit it from there. AI might be really useful there. You might be happy to edit your own scripts, but you might also be curious to see what happens if you put into AI and ask it to do an edit and see what it comes up with. It might come up with something that might be far more interesting or engaging for you, or it may not. You might look at it and go, well, that's a load of rubbish, and put it aside. But the invitation is always about, let's be curious here and see what comes up. Now this, I will be open and honest. I pinched this from Shane Fossart. He's one of those people out there in Australia who is very much into the AI world. And this is something he was talking about, which is the hypno-style tags. And these prompts do work very well. So for instance, he's got here the goal, the expert title tag, and that will give you a tailored output. So the example he has here is to write a self-confidence script and to apply the Milton Erickson principles. That is the sole prompt that he has offered in this instance. Now, I was curious to know what would that actually generate? And to my surprise, it generated something really interesting. I just realized I haven't printed out, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen there and go into where I do have it. So you can see that I literally did copy in that exact same prompt. And I was really surprised to find that it delivered quite an extensive and very Ericksonian style script. Now, I won't bother to sit down and read that out right now because it's 7:26 already. However, I will copy and paste this and put it into a document for people to read, or you can just type that actual prompt into ChatGPT and see what it comes up with as well. But to Shane's credit, yes, his system there actually works an absolute treat. And I can imagine, because I've got there just simply write a self-confidence script and to apply Milton Erickson's transformation hypnosis principles, I can imagine if I was to write something like, write a script that would help someone to let go of an uncomfortable emotion aimed at a male aged between 25 and 40 with 4,000 words, and then in brackets apply. It would give me something that was far more tailored. In his example, he gives 3 main masters that he believes you can use within this tag system, being Milton Erickson, Gil Boyne, and Dolores Cannon. I have no doubt that you can probably enter anyone else in who is relatively well known. For instance, you could probably put in David Ellman, for instance, or someone on those lines as well. The perfect script architecture as well. So obviously this will be dependent upon a few things, but I think most of us generally agree that we've got the introduction there, which is obviously your pre-talk. And the pre-talk is generally going to be one of the most important parts of any hypnosis session, because it's going to help ensure that your listener is feeling completely comfortable and congruent with their experience and ready to just dive in and see what can happen. The induction and the deepener are there as well. Obviously, within the script content, we were talking about that pain to pleasure transition, and of course, awakening and closure. Now, the obvious question I get asked frequently is how long should all of that be? And that can be really dependent upon a few things. If you're doing the tools that I was talking about earlier, like those short little explorations of internal resources, aim for about 5 to 10 minutes. If it's going to be change work of some sort, whether it's doing induction and deepener, and then being able to do some sort of disconnect from the pain and connecting into the pleasure, you aim for about 20 to 30 minutes. And if you're planning to have something where you don't have a reawakening at the end and it's dozing off to sleep, 45 minutes there. If you look on YouTube, you will see occasionally that there are recordings that will go for up to 8 hours. And the theory is that you put it on when you go to bed and it plays all night. Now, I don't imagine that they're sitting there in front of a microphone reading out an 8-hour script. I don't think anyone has time for that. What is probably more likely is that there is a very slow induction. There'll be a deepener, and then there will be a repeat of suggestions for the bulk of it. So probably what they end up doing was maybe 45 minutes of recording and then looping it through that recording for 8 hours. I've not actually sat down and listened to an 8-hour recording. I don't know if any of you have. I would much rather just sleep, is a better use of my time then. If it's going to be something that is for a sleep recording, then obviously having something that is passive in engagement, where they just need to listen to suggestions, is going to be the language you want to use. Whereas if you're wanting something that's going to be more change work, then you want to be able to have active visualization there as well. And of course, the different environments that a person might be listening to it as well. You may have people that might choose to listen to your recordings while they're commuting to and from various locations, whether it's work or at the end of the day. And then there might be people who choose to listen to your recordings in bed. I don't know about you, but if I hand out recordings to people, I generally advise them not to listen to it in bed, because they're far more likely then to doze off to sleep, and then it kind of defeats a bit of the purpose of the recording. I did jump this slide. I'll go back to it. It's just a few prompts that are useful to know. With the notes that I'll hand out with the replay, there will be a document which is a workbook, and it will have a series of prompts in there for you to play with and explore. So I won't spend too much time talking about the prompts now, but it is useful to look again at some of these things like the demographic mapping. If you know who your client is, you can use AI then to be able to come up with perhaps some ideas or some thoughts about the client that you may not have figured out yourself. Pain discovery. So if you're not sure what kind of issues or challenges your demographic might have, you can use AI to explore that a little more fully. internal dialogue, talking about what kind of things the person might be saying to themselves, and style blending as well. So you can combine different types of masters that we're talking about before, or different types of techniques too. I imagine most of you as practicing hypnotherapists probably find that you dive into different types of toolkits when you're working with people anyway, I imagine. So I know that if you look at a typical session with me, there's going to be generally things like parts and ACT and internal family systems all kind of blending together. And so we naturally do that. And so sometimes it's good to be able to replicate our style a little bit more in AI in that way. The human filter, ethics and quality. As I said before, AI cannot hold therapeutic responsibility, so always review everything that AI gives you. Safety, always check for accidental triggers that might be in anything AI gives you. Scope, ensure content remains within professional limits and that you're not overreaching what you should or should not be working with. Voice, verify that the tone sounds like you. And critical, no trauma regression or working with trauma via AI audio. This requires one-on-one work for safety reasons. So yeah, just covering again what we're aiming for here. One, identify, map demographics and pain points. If you're planning to use AI, you can use the HypnoStyle tags for draft. You can refine it to edit for safety and voice. You can make sure that you are sitting down and recording it in a way that feels like it's in your own voice and fine. And then, of course, we end up with the distribution, which we'll cover in some future months there as well. And I have got this last slide here about, again, the homework steps. Who is your key demographic that you wish to work with? What are their key pain points? How is the problem a problem? What are their key pleasure points? How would life be if the problem was gone? Map out how many scripts. Each pain point might be its own script. Write up your scripts or use AI to come up with a draft and then reshape it in your language, and have your complete set of scripts ready to go before the next Zoom so we can sit down and talk about the recording process. I did want to show something here, which is, this is from Uncommon Knowledge. And this is a good example of what I mean. So they have a particular product called 10 Steps to Becoming a Non-Smoker. And each of those 10 scripts cover a different aspect of becoming a non-smoker. So things like how you're being brainwashed, the parasite and the host, an abusive relationship, when smoking starts to squeeze, and that would be focusing on things like how smoking would squeeze the internal organs, squeeze the wallet, things like that. Breaking the chains that bind, living under a dictatorship, freedom from fear, living free, avoiding weight gain, and the whole story. So you can see how what they've done is be able to look at all the different pain points that might exist, whether it's about, well, I don't want to do that because I might gain weight, or it's part of my identity, or working with some of the strengths they might have. So for instance, looking at things like living under a dictatorship and working on that away from mentality there as well. So these are really good examples as to how you might be able to break down those pain points and create scripts based around the pleasure points there as well. Do we have any questions at the moment? Because I feel like I'm just, well, attempting to talk, but tripping over words and not doing a terribly good job of that. Do we have any questions at this point? No?
I think you're spot on. I think that's really good, excellent stuff. Thank you.
I was trying to find, where did I put it? I will show this just quickly. This is the workbook that I have put together, which just shows, has questions like, what issue does this recording address? Get you to build your client profile, get you to build the pain points, asks what kind of emotional experience, desired outcomes, how would life feel differently if this recording worked perfectly, identity shifts, language use. So it really covers a whole lot of different areas there for you to consider before you start writing your script. And then it also has some AI prompts in there for you as well. So there's lots there you'll be able to use and explore and be curious about too. So that will be available in the Facebook groups, and I will email it out to those that are not in the Facebook groups as well.